Hi, my name is Elise Sternger. I am the Vice President of Paid Digital Media here at PM Digital. Thank you so much for joining us today for this webinar. We are very excited to be kicking off our Hot Topic series that we are doing in partnership with Google. We will be scheduling these brief discussions around key strategies and industry advancements exclusively for our clients throughout the year. So please be sure to be on the lookout for future invites. Our first session today is entitled Mobile Matters, Growing Your Business with Mobile. We have with us today our primary lead from Google, Ravi Gupta, and he's going to present with us on this topic. We'll have about 45 minutes of content, and then after that we'll open it up for Q&A to address any specific questions that you might have. Just a couple of quick housekeeping items before we get started. If you do have a question, please submit it using the chat feature, and time permitting, we'll answer those at the end of the session or follow up with you after the event. Also, just to note that this event is being recorded, and we will distribute the recording and the materials in the next day or so. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Ravi.
Thanks so much, Elise, and welcome to everybody joining on the call. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day. As Elise mentioned, my name is Ravi Gupta. I am PM Digital's Agency Development Manager. I'm based in Google's New York City office, which is our second biggest office. We have about 6,000 people in New York between engineering and sales. And in my capacity, I work with PM Digital to make sure that all of their clients are getting the most out of Google, which can range anywhere from technical support to billing support to access to the latest betas, as well as the opportunity to be able to speak to you via forums like this one. So without further ado, I'll dive right into it. And I think we're all here today because, obviously, everyone here owns a smartphone, and they're probably on their smartphone a lot. At Google, we do firmly believe that advertisers in this moment are at a really crucial juncture in their businesses where they can either embrace consumer behavior and win with mobile, or choose to only kind of half pay attention to it, undervalue it, and then obviously potentially risk the competition stealing market share. So today, we're going to look at how the mobile landscape looks both from the consumer perspective, but as well as the advertiser perspective, and then we'll outline how to grow your business with mobile. We're really thrilled to be partnering with PM Digital. I've been working with PM Digital for over a year and a half now to see some of the incredible work they've been doing with their clients, especially in the mobile space. So looking forward to, after today's talk, work with PM Digital on helping everybody who's here today with their mobile strategy. As Elisa mentioned, please feel free to submit any questions via the chat function. We should have time at the end to get to them. If not, we'll definitely answer them shortly after the presentation as well. So here's a brief look at the agenda. We'll look at the state of mobile, and then we'll get right into how to win with mobile and finish up with Q&A. So before diving into how to win on mobile, it's important to look at where mobile is today. The Game of Thrones reference here, Jon Snow, like this character, how the way he has been ready, the way he's always ready to lead, mobile is ready to transform digital advertising. In fact, that transformation has already begun. So let's start off by just looking at some high-level data about U.S. adults and their time spent with media. So here is a look at an eMarketer report via the U.S. Census that looks at a side-by-side comparison from 2011 to 2015 and time spent with media by U.S. adults. And probably what is not a surprise to anyone, digital was the only media that's grown in the last 5 years, and it's growing huge. As you may have heard, and as you may well believe, we no longer go online in America. We basically live online, given the digital kind of proliferation. What's interesting, though, if you look deeper at where the digital growth is coming from, you'll see that people are spending about as much time on mobile today as they spent online in total in 2011, which really wasn't that long ago. So while time spent with digital has increased 65% overall, time spent with mobile has increased by 700%. Just massive growth on mobile, given the fact that so more people are able to access smartphones at cheaper prices and cheaper data plans. So we really can't stress the fact enough that we do live online, and mobile is the reason why. You may have heard that Americans now check their smartphones over 150 times per day. So mobile is truly our trusty sidekick. It's there in every moment that we want to know something, or we want to go somewhere, or we want to research a potential purchase. I mean, how many times can you count on your hand in just the past week where you've maybe been in the middle of a conversation with someone, and then as you notice as you're talking, he or she is, slowly nodding as they go down to their phone, pick up their phone, and unlock it while you're talking to them. So this obviously happens a lot. And what we should acknowledge as advertisers is that every time this happens and someone picks up their phone, that's an opportunity for your next sale. And so that's happening 150 times per day per adult in the U.S. So, consumers are so attached to their devices that there's actually been a word, nomophobia, that was invented. That actually means the fear of being without your mobile device, power source, or service area. So it's really kind of, permeated the way we live. It is now how we connect and how we communicate. So let's look at how this has affected the search landscape. The blue line represents mobile search queries, the green represents tablet, and the gray represents desktop. In the US, mobile queries officially surpassed desktop queries nearly 1 year ago, and obviously has not looked back. As an advertiser, this is a clear indication of a shift in consumer behavior that you need to be taking advantage of, and that's the shift from consumers searching primarily on desktop to now searching primarily on mobile. Now, I understand this only represents search and researching and not necessarily transacting, which is obviously, the end goal in e-commerce. But regardless, there's no question that given the amount of interaction and searches that are happening on mobile, that there is huge value there to be mined. When we look a little bit closer at some key categories in terms of where search query growth is coming from, this is from Google internal data. If you were to look at a category like footwear, in Q4 2015 versus 2014, desktop queries actually declined by 3%. However, there was huge growth in searches in the footwear category, all driven by mobile, which saw a 52% spike or not even a spike, it's been a gradual increase, a 52% growth in mobile queries for the footwear category. And as of date, 70% of all searches for the footwear category are happening on a mobile device. So it's extremely important that you're there for the discovery process. Or if they're even looking for you specifically, that you're there when they look for you with branded campaigns. And the same goes for several categories. As I mentioned, the U.S. overall, mobile queries have surpassed desktop queries. Looking beyond search and looking at e-commerce, here's a really telling stat that consumers aren't only researching on mobile, but they're transacting as well. During holiday 2015, 30% of all online sales in the U.S. happened on a mobile device. And I can assure you this number is only going to be growing as people get bigger phones, faster internet service, and as advertisers continue to realize that they must invest in the consumer's mobile shopping experience. As that experience gets easier, as you have to type less, as you can start using filters and have things be auto-populated, we expect this number to increase tremendously. So if we know that consumers are glued to their phones, they're searching on their phones, they're actually transacting on their phones, the question then becomes, how do businesses incorporate mobile into their business growth strategy? At Google, we believe it comes down to two related but different levers that you can pull. The first is investing in your site's mobile experience, and the second is investing in understanding if and how mobile ads are important to your bottom line. Said differently, advertisers need to consider how to optimize, measure, and invest responsibly. So let's start with your mobile site. You could have the best ad strategy, best ad campaign, and drive every target consumer to your mobile site. But if the experience once they get to your site is anything short of great, you're absolutely going to be missing out on revenue. And not just mobile revenue. Because think about all the research that's happening on a mobile device that ends up with somebody going into a store or onto their desktop to make a purchase. So by having your mobile site experience be poor, it's really going to have a cascading effect on how it will affect your revenues. And it's really important to understand that with more page speed and an easier user experience, you're clearly going to make more money because you're making it easier for someone to actually interact with you on a mobile device. So here's what users are doing and saying about page speed. 40% of consumers will abandon your site that takes longer than 3 seconds to load. Nearly half expect a page to load in less than 2 seconds. Does your site currently do that today? And more than half say that fast load time speed is important to site loyalty, which obviously is, not much more to say there. It's a critical piece. Is that these are people saying out loud, "I become more loyal to a site if it's fast." Think about all the people that aren't saying that, but they're actually doing that. When you look at the business impact of mobile page speed, here's some stats that show that consumers are really putting the money where their mouth is. For Google, for example, a 2% slower site means 2% less searches per user. You take GQ, for example. They were able to increase their page speed by 80%, and that led to a 108% increase in their ads interaction rate. And perhaps the most startling stat of all is the Amazon stat, which says that if their site was just 100 milliseconds slower, they would lose $1 billion per year in revenue. So speed and design is everything when it comes to the mobile experience. Speed obviously isn't the only factor. Sites should balance speed with an optimized user experience. You can see here how conversion rates differ from a non-optimized site funnel on the left versus an optimized site funnel. In which case the conversion rate is more than double for the optimized site funnel. And that makes sense because if you have an easy to navigate fast site, people are going to view more products on their mobile device. And if they're seeing more products, they're probably adding more of those to the basket, which is resulting in more purchases and therefore a higher conversion rate. So again, speed and design equal money when it comes to mobile. I can't stress that fact enough. In fact, consumers are 67% more likely to convert on your mobile site if it's optimized. There are 25 principles of site design that every mobile site should strive for. If not for their consumers, then at least for Google, who is now looking at mobile friendliness in its rankings. Here are 5 of my favorite principles. Make the site search visible and ensure results are relevant. That's always a personal favorite for Google. It ties back to search. Implement filters to improve mobile search usability. Design efficient forms with streamlined entry or use click-to-call for complex tasks. Let users purchase as guests, and make it easy to finish converting on another device. And here's what success has looked like for our partners who do take these principles and page speed to heart. So please do yourself a favor, Google the 25 principles and compare them to your current site to get an idea of how optimized you are. And then looking again at the importance of page speed, we found that 1 second can really make all the difference. When compared to a site that loads in 1 second, a mobile site that loads in 3 seconds will experience 22% fewer page views, 22% fewer conversions, and a 50% higher bounce rate. When compared to a site that takes 5 seconds to load, you lose out on about 40% of your conversions. So again, it's really critical that you look at page speed in terms of being able to close business on your mobile device. And again, it's not just business that happens on your mobile device, but business that people will take from your mobile researching and apply it to either desktop or in-store or maybe over the phone. So fortunately, if you were to Google page speed insights, you can learn your site's mobile speed immediately and get to work on making it faster. Here are some more of the technical tactics that you can use to improve speed and therefore make more money. Things such as leveraging browser caching, prioritizing visible content, reducing server response times. Obviously, there are lots of things you can do, and you should really do as much as you can in the shortest amount of time so that you can take advantage of all the mobile traffic that you're getting. So at Google, we really do believe that now is the time to take action. First, by reviewing your site speed. Second, by actually, if you can, take out your phone after this presentation, test the mobile conversion process yourself. See how long it takes you to actually buy something on your mobile site. And maybe compare it with that of Amazon and see how different the speed is. Not to say that you need to be as fast as Amazon, but it's definitely something to strive for. Next would be to look at the design and use the site principles to improve your design. And then long term, you want to develop a strategy with your web developers around new mobile site technologies. This is something where it'll always be an arms race between consumers using their mobile devices and having high expectations of a clean and fast site, and technology getting there to help foster that. So while you work on optimizing your mobile site, the most important lever you can pull to win with mobile is to really understand how mobile is performing for you as an advertiser. The goal here is to understand what works and what doesn't so that you can invest smarter. Some of you may have seen the new Star Wars movie and are probably familiar with this image. This is obviously a billboard promoting the movie release. We actually asked a group of marketing executives to make guesses on how many ticket sales they thought this billboard that was in Long Island, New York, drove. Most thought that it was over $100,000 of revenue that this billboard drove, and some even thought that given its location and the price of movie tickets, it could have led to over $500,000 in sales. And you might have some guesses yourself, but you also may have figured out that it's actually a trick question, because we actually have no idea how many ticket sales this drove, because we have no way of tracking sales back to a billboard. And when you look to the pre-digital time, measurement had a really different conversation around it, mostly around impressions. So it's important to first look at advertising measurement in general and kind of do a look back. Like the billboard, measuring the return on ad spend of traditional advertising is extremely difficult. Traditionally, companies would spend money on radio, print, TV, billboards, and they would often see an increase in sales or store visits, which is obviously great, but they needed to have good faith that this increase was due to the money they were spending on traditional media. And it was always hard to track it back to a particular media outlet. And before the internet and display advertising, this was the status quo. People were okay with it, and they spent tons of money on traditional media. But then in 2000, AdWords was born, and measurement in advertising was truly revolutionized. For the first time, advertisers could precisely measure ROI and optimize with confidence toward a cost per acquisition. In the one device, last click attribution world of computers, this level of transparency represented a seismic shift. Everything was great. You could track your dollar down to the cent and see what it drove. But then something happened. Smartphones came along, and now shoppers began converting in so many different ways, via store locator, via click-to-call, via cross-device, via store to online, that it became hard to tell how a business was truly earning a sale. So we went from traditional advertising, where measurement was definitely imperfect, to desktop-only advertising, where you could really, truly track ROI and confidently measure it, back to a state where mobile effectively broke the last click model, because consumers are so heavily using their mobile devices to research potential purchases, therefore making mobile such a valuable part of the advertising ecosystem, yet it might not be seen that way if you only look at last click. So the model, again, became imperfect. So the challenge, of course, is that while it's so critical to the purchase journey, last click models and looking only at direct conversions really causes an undervaluing of the mobile touch point. That said, we can still measure mobile's ROI really well, but just not as clearly as the desktop-only world. And for successful forward-thinking advertisers, they know that that's okay, that it's not necessarily 100% perfectly clear, yet you want to use all the signals you can to actually get a good picture of what it looks like that mobile is actually driving. So here's a data analysis that illustrates how mobile supports desktop conversions. These metrics indicate that desktop converters are spending, in the first graph, or in the first graph, visiting fewer pages on your site. In the second graph, desktop converters are seen spending less time on your site. Yet in the third graph, desktop conversions are actually increasing from 2012 till today, in that same time period where page views and time spent on desktop sites was going down. Now, at the same time, we saw that on mobile visits were increasing and time spent on mobile sites was also increasing, which is really pointing to the fact that people are doing the research function, spending time on mobile devices, understanding products, doing their research, and then converting on desktop, hence the increase in desktop conversions. I'll pause here so we can everyone can look at the graphs again. So again, the amount of interaction happening on a desktop device is going down while the conversions is increasing, and mobile is the reason for that. So by looking at only the direct conversions, also known as the last click, you truly are missing the full picture on what mobile delivers. Google has made a mission of measuring mobile's value to advertisers, and to that end has created several solutions, including measurements of cross-device conversions, phone calls, store visits, and app installs. And perhaps the most critical value to measure is the value from cross-device conversions. Cross-device conversions are conversions when someone clicks an AdWord ad on one device and converts on another without any other ad clicks in between. So for example, if I were to search for shoes on my mobile device and I see a Zappos ad, I would click it on my phone on the ad, and then perhaps I would complete my purchase later on a desktop device without clicking on an ad. That's a cross-device conversion that should be attributed to mobile. Cross-device conversions on Google are very accurate and very actionable. In fact, cross-device conversions only surface under a 95% confidence interval. What that means is if we are anything less than 95% sure that a conversion on your site started on another device with an ad click, we will not report it. This is the same confidence interval that is used to allow prescription drugs to be released to the public. And lastly, you can put the cross-device data to work in real time with automated bidding strategies. One case study to share is of Shutterfly, a retailer of personalized products. Shutterfly felt that mobile was a key part of their puzzle, but by looking at last click data only, it seemed like mobile did not have much conversion value. So to understand better mobile's full value, they started measuring cross-device conversions and used that data to direct investment strategy. So, and what they found was that mobile should have been credited for 60% more conversions than it actually was by only looking at last click. And as a result, they decided it 100% made sense to opt in all of their keywords into mobile. They were also able to attribute 15% more conversions by factoring the cross-device number, which allowed their strategists to essentially take those increased profits and reinvest them in mobile, since now they're getting a more clear picture of what mobile was actually driving. So again, by ignoring cross-device value, advertisers are going to choose to artificially reduce the full value of mobile that it drives to your business, which is quite risky.
Ravi, can I just jump in here really quick before you move on?
Yeah, absolutely.
The cross-device attribution is such a huge topic for our clients. So I wanted to let everybody know that PM Digital does have some cross-device product experts coming into our office next week. And the purpose of that is to really go deep with our SEM team. So we'll have some very specific and strategic recommendations. So more to come on that. Feel free to ask your account teams about it, but we'll be getting some very strategic information for you. That was it. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Elise. One other measurement that I wanted to touch on before wrapping up is a solution that we have created called store visits. And this is important for retailers who have physical locations because 65% of all purchases start with some research on a mobile device. In fact, 71% of smartphone users say they've used the store locator on their phone to find a shop location. So for advertisers, if you have physical stores, chances are that you're using an ad extension that shows your location on a map, which is great. That's called the location extension, and I'm sure you see great engagement on that. So then the obvious question here becomes, the question comes up is, when it comes to measurement, how do you know if a search click led to an in-store visit? That's some very valuable information if you could figure that out. And that's exactly what Google Store Visit solution does. For eligible advertisers, when a customer clicks on a search ad and then visits a store, Google can now attribute that visit to a search click. And so with that information, you as an advertiser can determine the true value of those mobile ads, which will ultimately help you invest smarter. When PetSmart enabled this, they saw that 10 to 18% of all search clicks resulted in a store visit within 30 days. And again, that's such powerful information that they had not seen before. Prior to measuring store visits, they knew that they were getting a ton of search clicks, but they might not have seen what those search clicks led to. And now that they know they're driving to in-store visits, they can use that to essentially invest more or invest differently based on that stat. So to recap, investing appropriately simply means to invest in mobile by using all the data you can to measure its effectiveness. If you determine that mobile is as effective as desktop, then you should value mobile clicks the same as you value desktop clicks. And again, the things to look for are phone calls, store visits, mobile web conversions, cross-device conversions, and app installs. And so when looking at your mobile investment, here's a quick guide on how you can invest. So, first looking at improvement. You want to improve by optimizing your mobile site. Next is to measure by understanding the full value mobile is delivering. And lastly, to be present, to enable every AdWords campaign to run on mobile, if it makes sense. And then lastly, to optimize for placement on mobile, as click rate on mobile skyrockets if you're above the fold. Thank you, everybody, for listening. If there are any questions, we can definitely get to those now.
And just a reminder, if you do have any questions, please submit them through the chat function at the top.
Perfect. Elise, did you see any on your end?
I do not, no.
Okay, I have one here, which is somebody asked if our mobile site is currently not fully optimized, should we still be investing in mobile advertising? And the answer is, Elise, I'll let you chime in as well, but as far as Google sees it, the answer definitely is yes. Even if your site is not optimized, but if people can still navigate around your mobile site, you don't want to ignore that audience. If you look at the footwear category, for example, 70% of searches are happening on a mobile device. You can't not be present for those searches. And something is definitely better than nothing when it comes to your mobile site, just because of all the discovery that takes place on a mobile device. The other thing I wanted to say is that if currently your mobile site is not optimized, please do prioritize that. Make that a business priority where the full company understands the importance of having a strong and fast mobile site. So you want to prioritize it. You don't want to cut off the nose to spite the face type of thing.
Yeah, and I would add that we do agree that it's a good thing to be testing into, even if you're not mobile optimized. A good place to start would be within brand and PLAs. Brand because obviously people are very often familiar with you already, and then PLAs because it's one click to get to that product, so it eliminates some of those additional clicks. We tend to see pretty strong conversion rates for both of those, so that's a good place to test into mobile.
Great. And we had another question. Mobile is clearly taking query share away from desktop. Are you also seeing it starting to take share away from tablet? So the one way of looking at it is that it is taking away share from desktop, but we also see it as just there's a slew of new searches. Search queries overall is growing across all categories, whether that be from 5% to 30%. We're seeing overall there are more searches happening across digital. So it's not so much that it's necessarily taking share away from desktop as people are just searching more with mobile. But in relation to tablet, that is also the case. Growth on mobile it's definitely happening faster and at a higher rate than growth on tablets in terms of search.
Yeah. We're definitely seeing across most of our clients the tablets has been declining, and even conversion rates there are not as strong very often as they are on mobile. Good.
Great. Please, we can hang out a couple minutes. If there are any more questions, please feel free to submit anything you have a question on.
Yep, and if anything comes to mind after this, feel free to reach out to either your contact here at PM Digital, or you could send us an email at info@pmdigital.com. We hope that you enjoyed this event, and we look forward to our next Hot Topics webinar. Feel free to give us any feedback. We're very excited to kick off these series, so we hope it was helpful to you. I think.
Thanks, everyone.
With that, yeah, thank you.